Welcome everybody to another edition of TEW 2020 as we're continuing our WCW 1994 series on the road to Spring Stampede, and we start out with Jesse Ventura welcoming out Ted DiBiase, making his way to the ring to the boos of the crowd. Ventura, he says he wanted to bring DiBiase out here after what happened at Super Raw and ask him, what his future here is in World Championship Wrestling, especially with Ric Flair currently out with an injury and there being no, DiBiase coming here to take out Flair. DiBiase explains that, everybody has a price for the $1 Million Man. Well, everybody has a price for Ted DiBiase because we can't actually use the $1 Million Man because copyrights, but he, puts it on the fact that, he's become very successful in everything he's done in life, and he'll be very successful here in World Championship Wrestling. And once Ric Flair is done crying and whining with his doctor's note, he'll be happy to prove why, if DiBiase was here a little bit earlier, it would have been Ted DiBiase running this company as a world champion for year after year instead of the Nature Boy. And, yes, at Super Bowl, it was a disappointment that Dusty Rhodes didn't actually want to fight, but I showed him that, just like I've showed him before in other places, that I am one of the greatest professionals of all time, and Dusty, well, you're an old man. Out comes Dustin, of course, to basically, be angry that he went after his dad. DiBiase sort of laughs at him and says, you're just a punk kid. I'm one of the greatest wrestlers in professional wrestlers in history. You barely have some scruff on your neck, so what do you think you're going to do? So Rhodes challenges DiBiase for next week. DiBiase says, well, I'm not going to wait until Spring Stampede to actually wrestle in World Championship. Let's do this. Next week on Saturday night, I'll teach you a lesson just like I taught your daddy a lesson at Super Brawl. Of course, there's an argument and almost a brawl, and there we go, 91. Really good, solid promo as we go to our opening match, which is about that decent to the crowd, but Cyber Wrestling, Marcus Bagwell defeating Rip Rogers in 646 by pinfall. This gets a 46. Marcus gets a 42. Rip Rogers gets a 38. Straightforward, squash win for Marcus, as he can use on the undercard, and Bagwell celebrates to a 49. I still haven't really found the right tag partner for him or the right way to actually push him. I think I have an idea for the near future after what happens in a couple weeks here on as far as my plans go, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Anyway, move forward with the Samoan Savage defeating Mike Graham in 715 by pinfall. The Samoan drop. This gets a 47. Samoan Savage gets a 46. Mike Graham gets a 36. Or Samoan Savage got a 45, not a 46. And just again, another, Graham gets a little bit of offense in, but basically this is Savage running over Graham. And post-match, Savage, of course, hits him with a big old splash and just takes out Graham totally to a 37. This is just rebuilding Savage because he's basically been a pure jobber to the stars for the past little bit. So just reminding, but he is a tough guy. He is scary and all that good stuff. Until, I inevitably job him again. Anyway, moving forward, we have another confrontation between Jacques Rougeau and Johnny B. Bad. Bad says, Rougeau says he should be the television champion right now because he defeated Johnny B. Bad. The announcer points out, the time Rougeau has been successful. It's either been to a time limit draw or after the 10-minute time limit. Bad says, that just proves that, Johnny B. Bad is scared of actually putting his TV title up in a time period when Rougeau can actually take the title off of him, and he's scared of Quebec's greatest athlete. Johnny B. Bad comes out and says, he's a bad man, and he'll happily take on Rougeau next week in a 15-minute time limit match, since that's about when Rougeau got the win on him last time. Rougeau agrees, and there's a standoff, and Rougeau says, keep that belt nice and shiny for me, because you may think you're pretty, but that belt's prettier, and it's going to be around the waist of the finest athlete in all professional wrestling, Quebec's own Jacques Rougeau. And this gets a 60, so solid stuff. Then we have a quick Vegas and Flamingo in-ring, putting over they're still one of the, the greatest teams in wrestling right now, and, they might not look it, but they're ready to take some fools out. Vegas says, Vinny has some random quip about, they're rich men, they're poor men, but me and Vegas, we're going to be successful here in World Championship Wrestling one way or the other. 62 solid promo, even if I didn't totally do it, because I'm still not 100% sure about their actual characters. You get why I'm teaming them up, but it's still not 1% sure, in my head quite yet. Anyway, they win a squash over Eric Watts and Iceman King Parsons, and about that decent to the crowd, but it's terrible wrestling. As Vegas pins Watts with the snake eyes, this gets a 50. Flamingo gets a 55. Vegas gets a 44. That's unfortunate. Watts gets a 31, and Parsons gets a 36. Good stuff. And post-match, of course, Flamingo Vegas celebrate to a 50. Then we have a quick promo, basically where Rockin Country, says, they're proud that, Brad's back from injury, and they're proud to be together, but they're challenging the Cross Atlantic Confederation of Benoit, Eaton, and Regal to a six-man match next week. And, they have a partner, but they're not going to tell Cross Atlantic Confederation who it is. Oh, and it's not next week, but they did challenge them. And, they're ready to fight anybody. They're ready to fight anybody, but first they got to take care of this business that they have here before they move forward on in the tag team ranks. As again, 46, not the worst promo. And stuff might be a little bit lower than normal as far as range, just because I'm in the Midwest instead of, Great Lakes officially, instead of in the Southeast. And then in a good match that about that great heat and decent wrestling, Sergeant Slaughter basically squashes Max Payne 831 by pinfall by submission with the Cobra Clutch. This gets a 75. Slaughter gets a 77. Just a straightforward submission. Payne, of course, fights back a little bit, but Slaughter is still getting pushed some. So he just locks in submission on Payne and moves forward. As Payne gets a 52 and Sergeant Slaughter gets a 77. And then Slaughter basically, says, Austin, you think just because you got the drop on me once, puke, that you're going to keep that title forever? Well, Austin, you little maggot, if you've got the if you got the stones to actually face me in a rematch and put that U.S. title on, but I'll make you drop down and make me 20 as I'm making you submit, as I win back my United States title for all these fans. 73, solid promo, puts over, an Austin Slaughter rematch as we move forward. And then we have a Cactus Jack promo where he says, lots of people have been coming up to me, Tony, over the past week and saying, are you going to accept Rude's challenge? Are you going to get in the ring with him, even though, he's much better looking than you, he has a better body than you, and I'm sure lots of people, even that in head office, even if they don't like him personally, want him as the person put on the posters instead of a scruffy, kind of dumpy, scary-looking man like Cactus Jack. And I've got to say, Tony, I absolutely am, because Rude, it is true. You're a prettier man than me. You got more muscles than me. Well, at least you're showing off more muscles than I am. But are you ready to bleed for this title? Are you ready to get your bones broken to win this title? Are you ready to go through absolute hell for this title? Because Rude, I am. And that's why I'm going to be world champion after Spring Stampede. And you're still, maybe you'll just be a little less pretty. Bang, bang. So we have that officially set for Spring Stampede. Stampede, not Stampede. Is Cactus Jack versus Rick Rude for the World Heavyweight Championship. And that cuts to 72. Solid promo. Again, it wasn't like a long promo, so we didn't quite get the heights, but still good stuff. And then we get Sid Vicious winning a squash over Ace Steel in a minute 50. Sid gets a 70. Ace Steel gets a 21. Just a straight, just a complete squash for old Sid here. And, Sid goes basically kill Ace Steel. Rogar Hawk makes a save, and there's sort of a face-off between them as they start pushing each other before WCW officials get in the way. As announcers put the fact that, Hawk came out here to stop Ace Steel from getting absolutely demolished by Sid right in the middle of the ring. As the crowd pops for that, we move forward, which gets a 70. Again, just a quick post-match segment to sort of build up this new feud, I guess. We have a Sting promo, which gets an 82, and he basically puts out the fact, tonight I'm teaming with a great wrestler, Ricky Steamboat, to take on the Hollywood Blondes, and, I've heard Pillman talking about he's the future WCW. Well, this is the present, buddy. And, brother, if you want to take me on in that ring, I'm the International World Champion for a reason, and if you want to prove yourself, so be it, kid. But just remember one thing. It'll be showtime, and you actually have to prove yourself to be as good as you actually think you are, Brian. 82, good promo as we move forward. We got Dustin Rhodes basically winning a squash over Bobby Eaton in 10:25 by running Bulldog, which gets a freaking 80. Let's see here. Rhodes gets a 76, Eaton gets a 55. Let's see here. Was there any particular reason why this was really good? Not specifically, but wow. This is honestly, this would be good as a Rhodes Eaton actually wouldn't be in 1994, but I'm surprised the game actually agreed. But afterwards, as Rhodes is celebrating, Eaton comes out of nowhere, attacks him, hits him with a knocks him from behind, knocks him out, goes up top, good second rope, hits a fist drop on him with the loaded loaded glove as the crowd boos, as DiBiase walks away, still in the suit, sort of like brushing the dirt off his shoulders as Rhodes is out in the ring, as the announcers put over the DiBiase Rhodes match for next week, as that gets an 84. And then in our main event, about that fantastic heat and great wrestling, the Hollywood Blondes defeated Sting and Ricky Steamboat in 1810 when Brian Pillman pinned Ricky Steamboat with the air Pillman. This gets an 84. Austin gets a 71. Pillman gets an 84. Ricky Steamboat gets a 79. Sting gets an 83. So again, back and forth, just great match. It's Austin, it's Pillman, it's Stingers, Ricky Steamboat 1984. It's going to be really good. But, eventually, things break down. Everybody's down. Pillman slips in, hits his finisher on Steamboat and gets the 1, 2, 3 as Sting is stuck on the outside. And then Pillman makes a title vote at Sting to end the show. This gets a 73. And overall, the show itself got an 83. So really good show, really building up that Sting Pillman angle. DiBiase's debut next week, starting out some new feuds, basically solidifying the Cactus Jack Rude match, setting up, a challenge for Austin in the future. Some good stuff, and I'll be back in just a second with the second show of the taping. Okay, now it's time for the second show of this taping live from Madison, Wisconsin. We got 9,000 people, a little under a cell, but, good. I mean, much better than WCW 1994 in real life could do, but, that's the game for you. Anyway, we start with, announcers putting over that it's DiBiase Rhodes tonight, which gets a 71 as it's just a quick 1-minute segment. Then we go to our ring for our opening match, which is Road Warrior Hawk and Tsunami defeating Rage and Fury in 620 when Tsunami pinned Rage with the running senton bomb. Ouch. This gets a 47, Tsunami gets a 73, Hawk gets a 67, Fury gets a 27, Rage gets a 34, so just a straight up squash win for Hawk and Tsunami. And they basically cut a quick promo, Tsunami saying, he's backing up Hawk tonight, whatever he wants to do, and Hawk basically says, there have been lots of big SOBs I've faced in my professional wrestling career, but Sid, you think you just, and I've done a lot of things I'm not proud of, but Sid, you big lunkhead, you think just because you can powerbomb some folks and you look scary, they're the baddest man on the block. Well, me and Tsunami, brother, were the baddest men on this block. So if you want to dine on danger and snack on death and face us down, then find a partner and we'll dance. 70, solid promo as we move forward. As we have the Bulldog defeating Van Hammer in 5:45 by pinfall with a military press slam. Probably in reality a power slam, but what can you do? This gets a 73, so shockingly good. As Bulldog gets a 79, Van Hammer gets a 37. As this is, again, Van Hammer gets a little bit of offense, but Bulldog gets the quick win with the military press slam. And then Bulldog cuts a promo saying, he wants respect. He was just international world champion, but, WCW officials haven't gotten to him about any opponents. So, he's calling, he wants some actual competition in this ring and wants to prove that he's one of the best wrestlers in the world and prove that, he deserves to be right back at the top, no matter what a bunch of bloody Yanks may think. This gets a 72. Again, solid heel promo because, again, Bulldog's still the hockey heel. He just loses the world title Sting, but he's back on the, bringing that momentum back up as we move forward. As we have a Dustin Rhodes backstage promo where he gets 68 and says, you're right, DiBiase. You and my father had some battles before, all over the world. And not always did my father end up at the right end of things. But here's the difference. You were fighting my dad after years of being on the road, getting beat down, battling, bleeding. You're not facing my father. You're facing me. Young, hungry, and ready to go. And now you're getting a little bit older. It's a little bit harder to get. So they call me the natural, but the reality is I've got the skills to beat you in that ring tonight and prove I'm just not a flash in the pan. So DiBiase, you want to look past me to other opponents? Well, that's going to be your first mistake. 68, solid promo as we move forward. As in a decent match, Regal and Benoit of the Cross Atlantic Confederation team up to defeat Douglas and Ace Steel in 621 when Regal submitted Douglas with a Regal stretch. This gets a 55. Perfectly straightforward, win for the heels as Benoit gets a 72, Regal gets a 69. Ace Steel gets a 34 and Shane Douglas gets a 44, 55 overall. Solid match though. As basically they accept the challenge and say it doesn't matter what bloody, what pathetic partner you have, we're going to prove that we, just as British as the Cross Atlantic Confederation, will rule this company as we've got the best of every country together. The skill, the young ferociousness of Canada's Chris Benoit, the veteran skill of America's Bobby Eaton and the true technical mastery of a former United States champion, Steven Regal. So whoever you choose is going to be curtains for you next week, as this gets a 65. And then we have a Spring Stampede Control Center, which officially puts over that's going to be Brian Pillman versus Sting at Spring Stampede as well. So we have this match. And that's going to be Brian Pillman versus Sting for the International World Championship. There we go, 69. And then we have a quick Vader squash as Vader just kills Barbarian 742 by Pinfall the Vader Bomb. This gets a 63 as Vader gets a 84, Barbarian gets a 53. Barbarian gets some fight back because he's, still a big, scary guy, but Vader's that much scarier and he just pounds Barbarian back. And eventually, power bomb, second rope, Vader bomb, squash. As, Vader hasn't been seen since losing his rematch to Cactus Jack, but this is just a win to get him back, some momentum back, and Vader celebrates afterwards to a 73. And then, in our sort of a big match, Jacques Rougeau actually defeats Johnny B. Bad in 1338 by pinfall by using underhanded tactics as he wins the Cruiserweight the World Television title. So, back and forth match. Bad looks like he's going to get the win. Ref gets distracted. Rougeau wallops him with the Quebec flag. Rougeau rolls him up, puts his feet on the ropes, gets a 1, 2, 3, and wins the World Television title. Rougeau gets a 58. Bad gets a 61. And yeah, good stuff, as this gets a 55, mainly because I kind of forgot to put these guys in a storyline, and I just realized that as I did this. See, even your favorite content creators make some mistakes anyway. Anyway, Rougeau post-match celebrates over the top, acts like, he's just won a war or whatever, as he, waves the flag, holds the title up top, as Bad, sort of, convalesces at ringside to 49, as it's just a quick post-match angle. And then in a big match in about that great heat and good wrestling, Barry Windham defeats Ron Simmons in 1409, as Barry Windham defeats one half of the tag team champions. Back and forth match, really good match, but Windham brings in a chair and just wallps him with it and gets the pinfall victory after hitting some sort of big superplex. As overall this match gets a 78, Simmons gets a 71, Windham gets a 70, and a big win over one half of the tag team champions, like I said. And, what happens next is a 3-on-2 beatdown, but out comes Slaughter making the save, basically with to run off the rest of the heels, as they're stared on afterwards, as this gets a 67, as it's just, straight up, straight head beatdown of the Horsemen on the tag team champions. And then, it's basically them running them off. And then we come back from commercial with a promo from everybody as Pillman puts over, he's future world championship wrestling. And, he's going to take that international world title belt off Sting and prove that Horsemen rule. Martin Barry says, Arn says, I've had many a tag partner in this business. I've had many great partners. But Barry Windham has more natural talent than any of them have. And that's why Simmons and Too Cold, if you're ready to put your belts up, will rip and tear you apart and take those belts off you like stealing candy from a baby. And also says, damn, Slaughter, you think you just deserve a rematch just because you think I got lucky? Well, son, I'll whoop your butt from one side of this arena to the other. So if you want a rematch, I'll give you a rematch. But after I'm done walking a mud hole on you, your brush with greatness will be over. 74, good stuff. And so we get another couple, so basically, and this won't be official, but it'll be basically announced on the syndicated shows, as it's going to be Arn and Barry taking on Too Cold and Ron with the World Tag Team titles at stake. There you go. And then in our main event, in about that fantastic heat and great wrestling, Ted DiBiase defeats Dustin Rhodes in 1616 by pinfall. It says by using underhanded tactics, but basically, it's Ted DiBiase, so he cheats to win. He puts his foot on the rope, and it looks like, post-match he, goes after Rhodes to attack him. This match gets 75. DiBiase gets a 79. Dustin gets a 75. Let's see here. And then post-match, which gets 100. Basically, it looks like Deep Flair's going, after he goes up top, he hits Dustin with a second rope fist drop, and he goes up for a pile driver. But out comes Flair, and the brawl is on as they just fight all over as the crowd pops, as it looks like the Flair DiBiase feud is going to continue, and they're finally going to have a showdown once and for all sooner than later as the show goes off the air, as this gets 100, and overall, the show gets a 79. So big finish as Flair, basically, comes back, attacks DiBiase, and sort of puts things over. So really good, really big show, really good, decent show there, and we got so to really begin the road to Spring Stampede. As this loads up, fun times. All right, yeah. Let's see if there's any mail. Yeah, Dustin. Okay, Dustin thinks. Sure, Marty is not the best. But I'll be back in just a second with the second set of the Saturday night tapings, and that'll be it for this video. I'll be back with that in just a moment. Alright, now fine for the second set of our Saturday night tapings for this video, as we start out basically with Sting confronting the Iron Horseman all by himself in their locker room, and they're basically, saying him, if you want to get if you want to get laid out just like you've been laid out by us before, keep on talking. And things like, I'm not scared of you, but if you're actually ready for a fight, come bring it on. Bring your best three and me, and I'll grab Simmons and Too Cold, the tag champions, and we'll show you that it's showtime, and we'll show you that you're nothing but a bunch of paper taggers who think they're special just because they've got the number game, but when it's even odds, you can't stop me. And Pillman, it'll just be a little preview of what's going to happen to you at Spring Stampede. They agree, and there we go. We get an 81, and we get our main event set for tonight, as it gets a good rating. Then we go to a back from commercial and a quick Johnny B. Bad in ring where he basically says, basically, Drew Jacques got lucky. He stole the television title from him, but I'm going to get that title back, and I'm going to show him a very bad time. As it gets a 59. And then in the ring, we get a about that decent of the crowd, but some power wrestling. Johnny B. Bad defeats Eric Watts in 6:24 by pinfall. The Wild Thing. This gets a 59. Johnny B. Bad gets a 62. Eric Watts gets a 31. Good stuff. It's just a straight up squash win for Bad as he celebrates afterward to a 69. Then we have the Powers of Pain. In a battle that decent the crowd, but it's a power wrestling. Powers of Pain defeat Terry Taylor and Rob Rogers in the 6:13 when Barbarian pinned Rogers with a kick of fear. This gets a 47. Taylor suffers a back injury. Oh, too bad for Terry Taylor, but he's Terry Taylor, so who cares? Warlord gets a 53. Barbarian gets a 55. Rogers gets a 40. And Terry Taylor gets a 42. So good stuff. Yep, I see. And yeah, who cares? Is the locker room really mad that Terry Taylor got injured? Really? Come on now. Anyway, the Powers of Pain celebrate afterwards to a 42 as we sort of rebuild their momentum a bit. As they were flirting with the tag titles for a while. Now they're sort of back into the mid card, unfortunately. Then we have a quick backstage segment with Simmons and Too Cold. They put it in effect. Simmons and Too Cold are tag team champions. Arn and Barry are both great wrestlers, but they've been teaming together for the last few months. And they've gone they faced every challenge they can, and if they have to face Arn and Barry, they're fine with it, but they'll raise the roof tonight along with Sting, as Sting just does his ow scream, and there you go. Good promo, as this gets a 72. Then we move forward as Sid Vicious kills Shane Douglas. Well, okay, not quite. Shane Douglas gets a little bit of a babyface comeback, but in the end, Sid is Sid, and this actually slows down a bit, but in the end, Sid kills Shane with a chokeslam and the powerbomb. It says chokeslam, but let's be honest, he would have hit him with the powerbomb. He beat Shane Douglas in 7:42 by pinfall the chokeslam. This gets a 58. Shane gets a 44. Sid gets a 70. And yeah, okay, Sid's gimmick is getting stale, so I'll fix that. But basically, what happens, is this goes a little bit longer, so actually it falls apart a little bit, which is why the rating is low. Sid actually has to slow it down with chokes and chin lock before he actually hits the powerbomb and chokeslam. So there we go. And then post-match we have Sid, going to hit Shane with another powerbomb. Hawk and Tsunami make the save, and it looks like they're going to get a beat. They're going to get a little bit of revenge of Sid for the poor babyface droppers. But out of nowhere, Vader runs in, slides in, and just drills both Hawk and Tsunami, lays them out before they can react. And Vader and Sid leave together to a 72. It looks like Vader and Sid, the master of the powerbomb, are teaming up once again. Then we move forward. We have a Flamingo in, which is supposed to be with Cactus Jack. And yeah, I sort of probably should have just not used some of these guys. Oh well, not the end of the world. Anyway, what happened here is, because it only gets to 69, probably because I actually rated Flamingo in Vegas, which probably isn't the best idea. But you live and learn. What can you do? Anyway, we move forward. Flamingo in Vegas basically says you've got no chance to get Rude, because look at Rude and then look at you. Yeah, you've beaten some tough guys, but you never faced a great wrestler in the ring so far. Vinny's like, I, you know, let's be honest here, kid. Cactus, you had a good run, but it's going to run out against somebody like Rick Rude. Cactus, like, I understand why you two goofs think Rick Rude's just going to run over me. I mean, you're what, after all, you're both what a lot of people in boardrooms want the champion to look like. A good-looking guy like you, Scotty, or a big, tall drink of water like you, Vinny. But I'm the one with the championship. You know why? Because while you two are partying, I'm bleeding and battered, but still ready to get up. Well, you'll walk away worried about something. Ah, doesn't matter how much you guys party. Doesn't matter how much you guys think I'm a schlub. I've fought, I've ripped, I've torn, and I've got this world title because it means I'm the best wrestler in World Championship Wrestling. And Rick Rude can do all I want. He can hang with Sherry Martel. They can talk about how they're going to destroy me. But bang bang, I'm the world champion and they're not. Rude comes out and says, "It's true that I'm not the world. You're the world champion for the moment. But that's only because I never got the shot that I was supposed to have. But now with Sherry at my side, I have my title shot at Spring Stampede. And Cactus Jack, you better click can't talk today. You better keep track of those precious days that you still got that shiny gold belt, because that Spring Stampede, it's coming around my trim and jacked waist, where all the women in the crowd will be happy to see it, and where maybe some schlubs like you will be upset, but that doesn't matter, because when you look like me, you got a body like this, a woman like Sherry Martel on my side, there's nothing I can't do. And Spring Stampede, I'm gonna walk over you." Cactus Jack fires back. Lots of men have said it before, Rude, and they've all ended up on their back feeling pain. If I wasn't scared of Vader, why the hell do you think I'm gonna be scared of you? And if there's a stare down before Flaming Vader's like, come on. Can't have anything too violent happen on our show. We're supposed to be a show for kind of everybody. But Rick, we know. You're awesome. Cactus Jack, you're schlub. And that's Flamingo in. 69, decent promo. Again, not my best work, but, those things happen. Then we have a quick Horseman backstage interview where they basically put over that, today is going to just be a little preview of what's going to happen at Spring Stampede, where Barry and Arn will become the new tag champions and Pillman will become the international world champion and prove he's the future of World Championship Wrestling. Then we have Rockin Country coming out for a big six-man. They bring out as their partner, Ricky Steamboat, to a pop. SS gets a 58. Then it's time for the actual six-man match, which gets a 69. Still not terrible, but not, great either. As in bout had good wrestling, decent crowd in the crowd. The Cross Atlantic Confederation of Regal, Benoit, and Eaton defeat Ricky Steamboat and Rockin Country in 13:50. When Regal pins Ricky Steamboat, basically, hits the brass knucks, gets the pinfall victory, puts the feet on the ropes. And the Cross Atlantic Confederation have a big victory, as they celebrate to a 69. Oh, and I forgot to check people's ratings. Oh well, not the end of the world. Anyway, heel celebrate to a 64, and a big win for the heels as they get win over Rockin Country and their tag partner Steamboat. Just a strong win to get the heels really over. And moving forward, as Ric Flair has a bout with just great heat and good wrestling as he defeats One Man Gang in 7:21 by pinfall. He actually he basically works on Gang's knees for basically the whole match, locks on the figure four, and actually gets the 1, 2, 3 with the figure four, as Gang's knees hurt too much for him to actually get up. So easy, basically a broomstick match for Flair as he gets a 79, Gang gets a 52, and then he cuts a quick promo which gets an 81 where he basically says, "Ted DiBiase, you think just because you're a little successful in life, you're the nature boy. You'll never be the nature boy. I've got custom made suits you're buying off the rack. I've got 20,000. I got rings on my fingers that cost more than some people's whole houses. I've held the 15 pounds of gold so many times I've lost count. Well, you sold off the only chance you had to be world champion. So, DiBiase, you think that just because I got a little injured, that you're done with me? Well, DiBiase, you got another thing coming. Diamonds are forever, and so is Ric Flair. So we got Spring Stampede, another match officially set up. Oops. 1-on-1 match, not a 2-on-1 match. And this time, it'll hopefully actually happen. And Ric Flair versus Old Teddy. Then we have a basically Vader instead looking scary backstage and says, "The Masters of Powerbomb are back together and we will rule the world." And Vader is screaming, "It's Vader time!" in the back. As, basically, looks like Hawk and Tsunami have another big challenge from him. This time it's perhaps an even more dangerous challenge of Vader and Sid. It's just a quick thing, it gets a 67. And move forward, as basically Youngsters put over, it'll be Austin Slaughter next week in a rematch for the US title, which gets a 69. Then our main event, which gets a 78. So not the best thing ever, but still really good. And about that time, fantastic heat and great wrestling. The Iron Horsemen of Pillman, Arn, and Barry draw with Sting and Scorpion Simmons in 1850, and it goes through double countout. So basically, as it's you'd match breaks down, and the last couple minutes, just these guys all fighting outside, as the announcers put over these big 2 title matches coming at Spring Stampede, as the war between the Iron Horsemen and Babyfaces continue. And Wyndham gets a 70, Arn gets a 74, Pillman gets an 85, Simmons gets a 72, Scorpio gets a 60, and Sting gets an 83. So really good stuff. And the show itself gets a 77. So not our best show ever, but a really solid show, especially considering, honestly, I sort of screwed up the Cactus Root promo. But yeah, good stuff as we move on to the last show of the taping. So I'll be back with that in just a moment. Okay, and now it's time for the final show of the Saturday night taping and the final show of this video, as it's time for Saturday night, as we're nearing the end of March, really starting the road to Spring Stampede, as the Youngsters put over its Austin Slaughter in a rematch tonight for the United States title. And we move forward to our opening match, where it's Sid Vicious and Vader making their debut. Not their debut as a team, but their re-debut as a team, defeating Iceman, King Parsons, and Van Hammer in 6:18 when Vader pins Hammer with the Vader Bomb. This gets a 53. Vader gets an 85. Sid gets a 71. Hammer gets a 42. Parsons gets a 35. And basically, we have a showdown between some big beefy men as Vader and Sid, are very happy about destroying some men, and they go destroy them again. When Hawk and Tsunami come out, and it's basically a showdown. There's some insults. Vader's, it's still his time. Sid, he's master in the world. Hawk says, I'm going to rip you apart. Tsunami saying a wave is coming for you, and basically, almost a brawl. But as the show puts, as the thing puts over, as this gets a 77. And post match, it's announced this will be a huge tag team match at Spring Stampede. So we'll go ahead and add that, as it's going to be Sid taking on Road Warrior Hawk and Tsunami. And the showdown gets a 77, like I said. Then we have a Spring Stampede Control Center, basically going over the matches, which gets a 72. Then we have in his first title defense on Saturday night, Jacques Rougeau defeats Marcus at Bagwell in 6:50 by submission with a Quebec Crab. This gets a 52 as Rougeau wins, just completely cleanly, as Rougeau gets a 62, Bagwell gets a 43. Rougeau has a random injury. Okay. And then he basically got the promo saying, Bad can whine all you want, but at the end of the day, he's a television champion of the world, and Johnny B. Bad is just a sparkly painted weirdo who's upset that a stronger wrestler, a more complete wrestler, and Quebec's greatest wrestler took him apart and took his title away from him. As this gets a 52, as we continue this feud. Then we have a throwback and a surprisingly good match, as in about that great heat and good wrestling, British Bulldog defeated the Warlord in 907 by pinfall with a running power slam. So back and forth power match. Warlord actually does his best to fight back, but Bulldog's just a little bit better as a former world and international world champion. As this gets a 73, Bulldog gets an 80, Warlord gets a 51, and then post-match, Bulldog cuts another promo saying he wants some bloody challenge here in World Championship Wrestling. He doesn't care who he faces, but he wants some actual challenge who will take on a former world champion such as himself. As this gets a 70, as we push forward that little storyline. Then we have a Slaughter backstage promo, which gets a 73, putting over, Austin, you're maybe the U.S. champion for right now, but you're still puke and a maggot, and I'm going to make you submit to the Cobra Clutch and take back my United States title for all these proud American fans. As this gets a 73, further hyping the main event tonight. And then in a really good match, super match, Brian Pillman defeats Marty Jannetty 942 by pinfall there. Pillman, this gets a 69, Pillman gets an 85, Jannetty gets a 59, so this is just a quasi-competitive squash. Like, Jannetty doesn't get totally squashed because he's actually like a mid-card babyface, but Pillman is on his way to a big main event title shot at Spring Stampede, well, like a semi-main title shot. And so Pillman it's actually basically a clean one. Like, he cheats to get the advantage. Like, he drops him with a hot shot, off the ropes, onto the ropes from the outside. So, a little bit of despicable tactics, but he gets the clean win. But then he goes for the beatdown, but Sting runs in and the fight is on as this gets a 70. Further, hyping up that little, throwdown between those two. Then we have a Steamboat promo where he basically challenges, Steven Regal. He says, he's upset he wasn't able to help Rockin Country last week completely. So, since Regal was able to use his wily nature to actually get the win over him, he wants to face him in one-on-one competition at Spring Stampede. 70 solid promo. Steamboat's still, decently over. It's just he's sort of stuck in the middle where, I don't want to push him as a main guy, but I don't want to turn him into a total jobber yet. So there you go. Or ever, actually, because it's rookie Steamboat. Then, in a non-title match, Scorpio and Simmons defeat Max Payne and Samoan Savage in 12-19. When Scorpio pins Payne with a Scorpio Splash, this gets a 57. Simmons gets a 66. Scorpio gets a 59. Savage gets a 43. Payne gets a 53. Straightforward win for the tag champions in a non-title match, which gets a 57 to make them look good. And then post-match, Scorpio and Simmons raise the roof as the youngsters put over their big tag title match at Spring Stampede. Then we have Ted DiBiase defeating Brad Armstrong in 809 by pinfall. This gets an 80, Jesus. DiBiase gets a 79. Brad Armstrong gets a 56. And you sort of throw it back to Mid-South, but DiBiase gets the clean win. Again, he cheats to get advantage. He breaks some eyes, does some eye poke, but in the end, he's that much better. It should be a fist drop or some sort of pile drive or something like that. I didn't want to give him the $1 million dream just because. I want to give him the clean pinfall, and there you go. This gets an 80. And post-match, he cuts a promo with an 82 as he puts over that, Flair. You want to talk about past glory? Well, this is about now. This is about me coming in and proving that the past 10 years were nothing but a fraud, where I should have shown you that, no, diamonds aren't forever, but everybody has a price for me, and everybody has a price when I prove that I'm the greatest wrestler in the world, and prove that the last decade could have been mine here in World Championship Wrestling if I wanted it to be. I let you be World Champion for a decade, Flair. I could have taken it any time I wanted. And that's the truth. 82, as we continue that little feud. And then in our main event, which gets an 81, so actually pretty good, despite Slaughter getting tired, as in about having fantastic heat and great wrestling, Austin defeats Sergeant Slaughter completely clean in 11:50 by pinfall with a stun gun. Austin makes defense number 1 of his U.S. title. Austin gets a 72. Slaughter gets a 77. And then we come back from basically a big commercial as, Austin is cutting a big, long in-ring promo, basically putting over the fact, he's the greatest wrestler on the planet. He's proved he's the U.S. champion. He's taken out an old man like Slaughter, and there's nobody who can stand before him and the rest of the Iron Horsemen. When some interesting music hits, and out comes Scott Steiner from WWF back to WCW, and he's a stare down with Austin and the show as the crowd pops, as it's, Scott Steiner. As we get it, as this gets a 71 to end the show, so not the greatest thing to end the show, but like, it's Austin cutting a big promo, cocky yell promo, and then Scott Steiner making his re-debut in World Championship Wrestling after a couple years without his brother Rick. Show overall gets a 79, so good stuff. And we'll just see what the actual, if there's anything interesting going on here. So this will take a moment. Savage out with a dislocated knee. That's too bad for the... So, okay, let me just see if this is a long-term injury for Rougeau. Okay, I mean, yeah, not the end of the world or anything. Let's just see. Oof, okay. Okay, so not the end of the world in either case. So I think that this all shows really building up, as we're going off to Spring Stampede. We got these matches set. Well, not these things. We got actual matches. We got Arn and Barry versus Scorpion Simmons for the tag titles. We got Vader and Sid versus Hawk and Tsunami in a battle of big beefy men. Pillman and Sting for the International World title. Flair versus DiBiase once again. And Cactus Jack versus Rick Rude for the WCW Heavyweight title. We have Steamboat as just challenging Regal and other fun stuff going on. But that's it for now, so I hope you enjoyed this. Go ahead and give it a like if you enjoyed this. Comment below what you're enjoying and not enjoying. Or subscribe to the channel for lots of TEW 2020 content, including this series, my WCW 2004 series, now heading towards Wrestle War, and Eddie Guerrero versus Macias, my WWE 2013 series, whereas I've used a random number generator to give myself some goals, and my MLW 2006 series. But that's about it for now, so I'll talk to you later, and adios.